introduce, like I said, ourselves and how we're here to support our families and students and the staff of PVSchools. So since you already knew what we looked like, we thought it'd be fun for you to see us when we were kids. So that is me. I have personally spent 20 years of my career here in PVSchools. I like to say I entered when I turned 5 years old. I started at Sandpiper, went to Desert Chavez Middle School, and then graduated from Horizon High School, which is where I met my husband. And we currently have 3 children who are also now attending PVSchools. So I started as a resource teacher. So in the classroom teaching resource at Palomino Primary. I was at Palomino Primary for 12 years, where I was a resource teacher and then became a behavior support specialist there. And then from there, I was a TOA, assistant principal at Eagle Ridge for about 6 months. And then I became principal at Hidden Hills, which is where I was for 5 years. And then assistant director for about 2.5 years before I took over director last January. So that's just a little bit about me. And I feel like I've kind of done a little bit of my education all over the state, from NAU to Argosy, Rio Salado, U of A, and then back to NAU for my master's in educational leadership. So that is really about me and my role to really support the district as a whole. And so I'm looking at big systems. I'm helping to make the best determinations and decisions for our programming with the support of these wonderful women, and just giving guidance where guidance is needed. So I think you're next.
I'm next. I'm Kimberly Koda. That's a little me. I have been in the district. This is now my 15th year. I also started as a resource teacher here in PVSchools at Sandpiper, which is weird. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So I was a resource teacher at Sandpiper and Desert Shadows Middle, and then moved on to be a TOA dean at Pinnacle. And I was principal at Pinnacle, then Vista Verde, and then Sun Kids Preschool. So I've quite literally done the pre-K-12 realm. So I kind of know where students are starting and where they're going to go, which is a nice view to have. I graduated from PVSchools, Liberty Sunrise Horizon myself. And then I have 2 little ones, a almost 4-year-old daughter who's keeping me on my toes at quite literally all times. Just broke her wrist last week. You know, we're just always rocking and rolling with something different. And then an 18-month-old son, and they're both in the community ed preschools right now. That's me. Got Mandy. Oh, there you go. Next.
I like this part where I'm probably been told 6,000 times not to do that. I'm gonna get hit with a ball and I don't listen. I wonder how many times I got hit. Okay, so my name is Mandy Howe. I graduated from ASU with my bachelor's in 2006. And I started my career in PD. I've been in PD almost 20 years. I started at Cactus View in a Title I setting, which I love. And I was a resource teacher there for about 9 years. I also did some behavior intervention. I did something called inclusion coordination, which was actually a really cool, unique job that I never got to do again, but I loved it. And then I was a resource teacher at Quill Run for another 7 years. And then I was a mentor, a special education mentor, pre-K through 12 plus pathways for about 4 years. And I got a really good sense of settings and programs and classrooms and students and teachers that I would have never had the opportunity to learn about otherwise. So I'm really thankful for the way that my path has kind of set me up to be in a position where I do kind of understand more about the district and about our different kinds of students. And so I'm really thankful for every leg of that journey. I did get my master's in 2012 in curriculum and instruction. I really do enjoy helping teachers by supporting them and equipping them, empowering them with language they might need, understanding about law, writing IEPs, best practices regarding like instruction, using curriculum, data collection, progress monitoring, like all those things. I do enjoy helping teachers with that. And I have 2 grown children, 23 and 25, but they both went through PD, pre-K to 12. So I'm now serving as a coordinator. And do you want to go over the areas or do you want to wait? We're waiting.
No, we'll wait. Okay, we'll wait. Save a little something.
Save a little something for the end. And then there's Erin. I'm Erin Smith. So education is actually my second career, technically. I started as a music therapist and I had a private practice. Thank you. Started as a music therapist, private practice with a contract with Department of Developmental Disabilities, but I was really passionate about the teaching part of what I was doing. And I went to a lot of IEP meetings as the home advocate or the home representative. And so really kind of decided that I could do it better than maybe I was seeing some people do. So I went back and got my teaching certificate and master's in special ed. And I started in the district in 2010. I worked at Desert Springs in the structured program. I taught mostly level 2 students, mostly K-3. And then I took over Gianna's position at Palomino as the behavior specialist. And then I've been on the special ed support team for many years, providing support to our students across the district, and just supporting behaviors and supporting special ed needs across the district. And I have a 14-year-old that has been in the district since preschool. He was a pure pal in some kids. He's now at 8.
I am Angie Hammock. I am the district school psychologist. My new role coming up in the next month is to be a psychologist / operational support for these ladies in the special ed department. I'm very excited to be able to help kind of work through some of the detail pieces as they work big picture. I have been a school psychologist for 30 years. So it's the black and white photo of me as a child. You can kind of just, extrapolate from there. 14 of those years have been here in PV. And I have had K-12, preschool to 12 experience as well. So I feel like that also gives me the opportunity to know from where the kids have begun to where they're going to go, all the way to where they would head outside of our high school situation. Let's see, and then I have 2 boys myself. Both of them are pretty much grown. One just graduated from AU, and the other is going to graduate from school at the end of this year.
So as you can see, our team is, I think, kind of unique in that we've all started off in the classroom. So our special ed for all of us is our passion. That's where we started. I'm only certified in special education. And it's really, that's just kind of been our platform all the way through. We believe in this district. We have all had kids that have gone through this district or are going through the district. And I think it's just important to note, and for me speaking for myself, I've been able to sit across the table as a parent in the special ed type meetings. And so I think it's just important to know that we're able to wear those different types of hats and know the roles and the feelings that come into play when sitting in a meeting at a school with a full team. So I think we offer a unique perspective. And Angie Hammock is, like she said, new. It's a new role. So it used to be an administrative assistant. However, we felt it was really important as our department continues to grow and our student body continues to grow. How do we best support our students? And so obviously you can see we're kind of a small team. And so just adding that layer so that when a parent calls a teacher, a colleague of any kind, call the front instead of maybe waiting for one of us to be available. Angie Hammock will be able to answer a majority of those questions coming through as a psychologist and an experienced psychologist at that. So we're just excited to have that extra layer of support. All right.
And then this is the rest of our leadership team that are kind of in the trenches down at different site levels. So we've got a lead psychologist in the district, Suzanne O'Day. We have a couple lead speech pathologists, Jennifer and Denise. We have a speech mentor, Lee. Related services, I said OTPT plus because they handle adaptive PE and all sorts of other things, vision, O&M, orientation and mobility, and all sorts of pieces to the special ed puzzle. And that's Jake and Jason. And then we have support team. These are teachers who are called out to sites to truly support in each classroom with individual students or groups of students. So it could be anywhere from curriculum to behavior to just implementing visual schedules, interventions, and that's Michelle, Kayla, and John. And so they're a great resource for our district. And then we have a mentor teacher, Rosemary Jacobs. So she works with our 1st through third-year teachers that are our special education teachers, helping with the IEP writing piece and some of that curriculum support. We also have an instructional coach, Cammie, and she's really big. I know there's a few people not pictured. This was from our IBA conference at the beginning of the year, but Cammie was, having a baby, so I suppose that's okay. But she's our curriculum specialist. And then we have our Sun Kids, that's our developmental preschool for the district, and that's led by Jennifer Miller and Maureen.
Yeah. I guess so. All right. So our support. So again, we are members of your team, right? And I know that sometimes when we get called in, it might be because something may not have been going right, or there's confusion, or sometimes honestly, just maybe a lack of trust that's occurred for whatever reason. And so we're called in to be there as a support. We're there to make sure that we are compliant, that the process is run the way IDEA wants it run, and honestly keeping the students' best interest at the forefront of the discussions. So again, ensuring that process is followed, that all voices are being heard and respected, all required documents are compliant, that ensuring that we are also advocating for your child. We want what's best. I always say no one comes to work wanting to do the wrong thing, right? We're here to help and listen. And really sometimes it's thinking outside the box and getting creative and how can we make it better? And it takes that kind of outside perspective. Sometimes when you're so far in the everyday that can be occurring, you sometimes don't see the creative options that are available. So that's a lot of times what we can do when we get there. And just to help support with ethically sound decisions for all participants. Really the spirit of all IEP team meetings is that everybody is heard and feels supported, and that at the end there's a plan that is really going to help your child be the most successful they can be, whether that's in an inclusion setting, resources, or a specialized program. See, they did this to me on purpose. They wanted me to talk more. I knew that wasn't mine. This was supposed to be mine, but I will continue talking. So I just wanted to kind of highlight a few of the goals that we have for this year. Obviously, there's a whole lot that goes on every day that we couldn't honestly have enough time to share, but I would say that these are the highlights. So just to kind of get you to understand, we are in an audit year. So Arizona Department of Education comes in and audits a certain percentage of our IEPs and our METs. So that's that evaluation paperwork. So it's good for parents to know that there is a lot of state oversight. There is a whole guide book that they have that we've got to make sure that we're following. And of course, those guide steps change often. So we have to make sure that we are obviously in the know, but they come out and they make sure all of our paperwork is individualized. Like they say, the evaluation all the way through the IEP should tell a story. It shouldn't be disjointed. So, and that is all also attached to funding that we receive for special education. So if we aren't compliant, we don't get funded. So that's coming up in February. So there's a lot of preparation that goes along with that. And Mandy, why don't you tell, because this is really in your wheelhouse. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you help with that?
Thank you. Oh, you're great. Thank you. That's awesome.
Sure. So they do this for every school district, and we're always in some sort of a monitoring cycle. We're always being audited, but it's a 6-year cycle, and every different year comes with its different types of monitoring activities. So this year, kind of a big year. There's a lot of files that we're going to have to pull, and they will go through it. We chose, because we were a newer team, which I think was the right choice, especially as we get further and further into the year. We chose something called on-site monitoring, which means they're going to come to us and they're going to sit down with us over the course of that week and talk to us about some of the strengths they're seeing, some areas where we need some support. And then it'll be our job to create that plan of support for our teachers when they're writing IEPs, our evaluators when they're writing multidisciplinary evaluations, child find, invite read, all those things that we're required as a district to do. And then we will work on that plan for a year, and they'll come back in and pull a few more and see if we were successful. And I 100% think that we will be successful. Sometimes you focus on the spirit of the law. Sometimes you have to focus on the letter of the law. Right now, we're focusing on the letter of the law, which isn't nearly as fun, but just as important. And yeah, we just had a little training, a little virtual 1.5-hour training where we talked about some of the things that we're seeing in our IEPs that we'd like to see maybe written differently, and I kind of introduced everybody to those guide steps and said, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to write, but it does guide you. It guides your thinking as you're writing. Yes.
If your child's IEP is audited, are you informed?
No, not necessarily. Now, I will say that if your child's IEP requires changes to be made and there's an addendum to make those changes, you will not just be informed, you will be included in those decisions about changing those IEP pieces, whatever they be. Good question. Yeah.
All right, the next piece is the analyzation of program data. So what is also interesting about our department in this district, which is extremely rare, is that I am the 3rd director of special education in 40 years. Which I can tell you that hasn't really happened anywhere else. And so with that comes like just a new set of eyes, right? And obviously a lot has continued to change and evolve in the 40 years. So where are we at now? What programs are growing? We know that our structured autism programs are growing. We continue to open up classrooms so that we have enough seats for the students that live within our district boundaries. But then there's some programs that maybe aren't as large as they used to be, due to the fact that, they might only be a K-3 program, or we're doing really, much better with our inclusive practices so that the students are staying at their home school, and they're being, within their gen ed classroom. So our job is to make sure that we have the classes that we need, that our curriculum is being utilized and is working. And that, again, it all goes back to are we also meeting the trends that are occurring from the state level? So there's just certain things that we need to make sure, like certain classrooms are only allowed to have a certain category, a label in it. So our classes with students with emotional disabilities can only have students with emotional disabilities in those classrooms. And so now, and that's something that's fairly new. So now we're sorting out, because we have students that are diagnosed with their disabilities that are in those rooms. So how are we going to create space so that they are receiving the supports that they need? So it's just an ever-changing, and a lot of the program analyzation is something that Erin is going to help support. So Erin, do you want to just kind of tell a little bit about your role and how you're supporting with that program?
Sure. So my background is specialized programming. I was a self-contained teacher, and behavior is my other background area. So I've been really focusing looking at our ED programs and how we're going to kind of revamp things so that we're fitting in with the state grants and the laws that we need to follow. And then looking at some of our other programs, and are we using the best supports and strategies for those programs, and what interventions need to be happening in those programs so that we really are giving those students the best opportunity for success. So I spend a lot of my time supporting those teachers and working with the support teachers that we have that are out there supporting the students in those classes.
And then the next one is to graduate Aspire candidates. So what you don't know is that we do have a program within our district for those staff members who, let's say, maybe were instructional assistants, but really wanted to become a teacher. Am I not explaining? That's a different, that's a teacher in residence, or
Yeah, we don't do that. PVCC does.
She's gonna, yeah, PVCC does that. So there's 2 routes, and we are actually gonna be creating our homegrown program here. But why don't you explain Aspire?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
No.
not gonna get that right.
No, there's so many different variations on that theme, right? So we know that we're struggling to keep teachers in our classrooms. We're struggling to convince people that education is where they should be. And so every district and the state and community colleges and universities are trying to think of all of these different ways that we can recruit teachers and educate them while they're learning how to be a teacher, they're teaching. In the Aspire program, teachers have to have individuals have to have a bachelor's as their background. So they can't be an Aspire unless they're bachelored in some area, not education, obviously, but any other area. And then we partner for Aspire. We've been partnering with ASU for 4 years. So they provide the curriculum, and we provide sort of instruction. They come to district once a month. We call it Inspire Wednesdays. We have all of our mentors there. We did have ASU staff up until this year. And we have had a really successful program. I mean, our first cohort was like 10 teachers. 4 years later, we have 26 teachers. We actually do have 6 Gen Ed K-8 teachers, and the rest are special education. We've got special education teachers in our elementary settings, our secondary settings, our preschool settings. We have it in our resource settings, our specialized programs. And we have a lot of people coming through with non-traditional backgrounds and are taking a non-traditional pathway to teaching. So because that is the trend, we have to embrace that. And so we're going to be moving away from ASU next year, where we're going to have to build our own in-house educator prep program. And I do not get intimidated easily. I am a little bit. So my job was to find all the people. We went to a conference the other day and I was like, who are you and what do you do and what's your name? So I'm gonna have to get real social here coming up, and I'm gonna have to go reach out and see how other people are doing it. But it's an exciting prospect. What I think I look forward to most is I loved the collaboration with ASU, but sometimes pedagogy and theory is up here, and we don't have enough of the practical day-to-day skills that we really need to support students in our classrooms. There has to be a mixture. So I'm looking forward to putting the teaching and the deciding about what they need to know in our hands a little bit, and then we have so many experts in-house in our district. So I would rather pay those individuals to share their expertise than to pay someone else from outside of the district. So that's kind of where that's headed. We will probably only be sticking to the special education programming and certification. And something that I should mention, because you may hear it, is an alternative certificate. All that means is that the person is going through an approved educator prep program. And so they're being mentored and they're being educated around their job and responsibilities. But that alternative certificate, which we provide the institutional recommendation for ASU, provides the institutional recommendation. It says, yep, they're going to school, they're being educated, they have mentors, we approve. And then the state gives them that alternative certificate. That is the same. It functions the same as a regular teaching certificate. And when they're done, and they've done 2 years of an educator prep program, they still have to take that course. I mean, those assessments, they still have to pass those tests, those knowledge tests. And then they can get their full teaching certification. So that's a lot of our teachers right now. So we're being as supportive as we can. And I'm still really excited that we're squeezing the last of ASU before we have to figure it out ourselves.
And I promise, so if your child has a teacher that's in the program or in an alternative program to get their teaching certificate, it does work out. That's actually how I started at Palomino Primary. I did not go to school to be a teacher. I went for psychology and counseling and found myself substituting at Palomino Primary. And so quickly fell in love and decided to get my alt certificate through Rio Salado. So, and here I am now. And that's how Erin started. So I promise if your child has a teacher that's going through one of these programs, honestly, most of the time they get more support than even a new teacher that's starting without being in the program. They have a lot of eyes, and especially if they're in our Aspire program, they have access to Mandy. So we're just excited that we're able to get teachers into our classrooms through those different channels. Obviously, we are all new to our role, and we're all new to each other for the most part. Although, like I said, our worlds have kind of coincided at some point or another. Angie Hammock was actually my psychologist when I was a principal at Hidden Hills. So that's how we met. Mandy and I were on PBIS committees with the state many years ago. Like I said, Erin took over for me at Palomino, and then Kimberly, Koda, we met beginning of last year, right? Knew of each other, but when she took over for Sun Kids as a coordinator, we worked together through that. So, but we still have to really kind of dive into our roles. And again, we had a coordinator for the first time 3 years ago, and this is the first time we've had 2 coordinators. So just learning how to split our roles and how do we best support? It just goes back to that. And so really that's what we're going to be focused on doing this year. And since there are quite a few of us now and we have different areas of expertise, we are going to really be working with administrators, so your principals. There is a lot of principals that didn't necessarily go to school for special education, right? They don't have that background. It's not something that is, or at least when I went and got my master's in educational leadership, it wasn't a part of the program. So really, I hope that we can support them and learning all the nuances. I mean, special education is very complicated. I feel like for 20 years, I've been learning it and I still don't have all the answers, which is why I rely on these women so heavily, because we all hold pieces of the puzzle. And if we all like kind of learn different avenues of special education together, we can know it, majority of it, right? Not all of it. And then just a little kind of brief, I know you're going to hear about it as time goes on, but I am sure you have heard a little bit about kind of resource fairs that our high schools put out. Over the years, they kind of have all done it individually, like Shadow Mountain puts out one for those students who are in the process of graduating. Maybe families are trying to decide kind of what are the best next steps for their child. Is it staying in one of our pathways programs? Is it, you know, or is the goal for maybe project search to interview for that opportunity? Or is it through one of the community college programs? I mean, there's just so much that's out there. And as a parent, it's sometimes hard to know again, or where to find all of this information. So we were hoping that we could all join together and host one large resource fair for everybody, and tailored for students in grades 6 through up, just so that, again, it's a one-stop shop for parents to really kind of see what's out there and they can start prepping and planning accordingly for their child. So we hopefully, I think we are, January, I think is kind of the new date that we are striving for. So it's again, anytime there's a first annual of anything, there's always going to be, you know, some tweaking and flexibility that we're going to need, but that is definitely a goal this year.
Yep.
So did we do all that? Yep. You got all of you, Erin?
So mine, the only thing we haven't talked about on mine is ESY.
Yeah.
So I will be the new person kind of coordinating ESY, handling ESY. I have taught and worked at ESY for over a decade. I'm very familiar with ESY. I'm there every summer. I love ESY. It's one of my favorite parts of the year. Yeah. ESY, good. What is ESY? Excellent. Great question. I just assume, right? ESY is extended school year. And so students in special ed can qualify for extended school year if they show 2 different areas of need. So it would be regression without recoupment during the school year, or it would be a critical stage of learning. And that would be an IEP team decision. And then if your student qualifies for ESY, one of the options is to attend our ESY program in the month of June. Yeah. So that is kind of, I'm working on that project. And then alternative assessment, if students are taking alternative assessment, I'm working for that too.
Well, we wanted to give those that are here tonight an opportunity to really kind of ask us if any questions that you might have about the process. We ask if you do have a question to try to keep it more general and not student specific, because obviously we don't, we're not able to discuss any specific students and their IEPs. But we're here to answer anything you may have.
And I let everyone know online too that they can put their questions in the chat and I will ask.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, none.
Question, Jessica?
I was just gonna ask, do you want to talk a little bit about, you know, if a parent has, you know, they're working with their school team, but maybe there's a question or conflict arises. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of chain of command, what you would suggest for parents to do in the event that they felt like they needed some support around their child's IEP?
So we always, of course, would like for a parent and the school team to have open discussions and dialogues with each other to work it out. But once a parent feels that maybe they've tried and it's not getting any better, Maybe you've tried speaking to the administrator on the site. But if you do feel like you need another voice or you would like one of us to support, you would just call the special ed department or email us. But really at that point, just so you know, obviously we would hear what's going on. But because we're not there every day, we do have to go back to the site and kind of understand what everything looks like. So that's why we always say, like, just try to exhaust, all of the communication strategies you have at the site level. Just because we're going to be coming and learning your student, from scratch, right? And some parents have a very long history with our department and our district. So, but we do come in and like I said, we offer that kind of just overall support for the entire team, right? I always come in, and again, I think for me, I tend to always have my parent hat on. Because there is a high level emotion that goes on when it's your child. I mean, there's no doubt about it, right? And so I always coach the teams, so that they're aware of my expectation of them. And that is, you're there to listen. You're there to see all angles. We're not there to defend, but to work with them as a partner. Okay, so that will always be my strategy. And so it's for us to find common ground, because at the end, we all want that child to do well. And so we might come at it from different views. We might all have some different strategies, but just kind of what's best and just keeping that in the forefront. So that's kind of I would say, how I would like for everyone to start. Again, is exhaust all options at the school level. And then we're always here to support.
So we might see one of you in the IEP meeting, but not to be concerned. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that you're there for support.
No, and honestly, that truly is, and I've said this before in front of my team, I actually really enjoy being a part of these meetings. For me, it gives me the opportunity to really get to know the school teams. It gets me to know the families in which we serve. And I enjoy working for the students. So I don't mind. That's the majority of what I do in Kimberly. So when we talk about roles, I know we didn't have like a role page, because really we are at the beck and call of anybody that needs us. So please don't get nervous if one of us shows up. And sometimes we're there to honestly observe, because we also evaluate psychologists. We evaluate related services, speech pathologists. So we might be there as a member, just making sure, again, that we're offering the best services possible.
And then just for parents, if you had any sort of feedback or guidance of how to collaborate well with their IEP team, how to build a strong team, communication, anything that you want to give us as parents that we can do on our side to make sure our kid is really well supported.
You guys have some guidance you would like to give? We can each take a turn.
I think it's always helpful to start at the source. If there's ever confusion, like, our kids come home and tell us. And before I will believe that child and what they're telling me, even though it's my own, I will always go to that teacher and ask them to tell me a little bit about what that might be about. And so much of the time, it really is about just starting with that teacher and giving them the opportunity to tell you kind of what happened, what went on that day, and just staying open-minded.
Great.
I was gonna say along the same lines as open lines of communication. I think that's the biggest thing I found, especially not only in my special educator teaching roles, but then as an administrator. A lot of the times, a lot of what I did as an administrator was smooth out some hiccups or communication confusion when, some of the adults just gotten in a room or online in a meeting, we could have gotten through. So I think just being willing for that open communication. But of course, if you're continually met with something, that's where, again, especially Gianna and I come in to help kind of guide through that and make sure that your students' needs are being met, and also your expectations. I think being open to that.
I mean, I would echo the communication piece too, especially thinking about students who have high support needs, right? we all need to be communicating very often about those students because they can't communicate for themselves oftentimes. So making sure that it's that open line of communication and that we're sharing lots of information, right? Because the more we know about your students, the better that we can provide services for them, supports to them.
And I would say for me, just, try to assume best intentions. Again, I know as a parent, it is easy to come in and, your maybe defense is up or, you're not, because I've been there, right? You're not in that place to hear it in that moment. Or, you need time to process, let's say. But I think if you go in with that intention of, I'm going to work with this team so that we can move forward in the best interest of my child, I think that does, it allows everyone to feel relaxed, right? And just kind of respected and that you can have that open dialogue. So I think for me, that would be the biggest thing. I also tell families too, none of us have a crystal ball. We would love to know what the future has, the outcomes are going to be. Is this going to be the most perfect program for your child? Is 40 minutes of resource a week going to be enough? We don't know that. And honestly, as a parent and as a teacher, you don't either, right? And sometimes it is a lot about trial and error. And getting to know the child in that moment, because we all know that as children grow and stages of life and going through puberty, right? So many factors and variables come in and play a role. And so things will always change. And that's why IEPs are living, breathing documents. They are to be utilized for addendums, their annual reviews. Every 3 years, your child gets a new evaluation, right? There's reasons for that because it's always going to change. A child coming into us with some kids is not going to be the same child that leaves us in 12th grade, right? And so I think just knowing that too, like we're not trying to push anything or have some hidden agenda. At that moment, we think that is what truly is going to best support your child, but by no means do we know what the outcome is going to be. So I think too, you just have to be open-minded to all of that as well.
I jump in and say too that we're very fortunate in PD to have full-time psychologists at almost every single campus with some assistants at many different sites. And I think that's the other piece, the person that can be that conduit between the family and the team. And sometimes that person can help mediate some of what might be misunderstandings or miscommunication, or even just providing that information that the parent gets to the team so that the team is aware and then the team can share back to the parent. I think that's a really crucial person to connect with on each campus too.
We don't have any more questions online. I don't see any more in person. So before we conclude, do you want to do our announcement about our upcoming Project Search information night?
Yes.
The flyers are over there, but sure. And in the meantime, I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing your time this evening with us and for all of the work that you do to support our kids.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for those of you that are here, you can pick up a flyer. And we will be sending them out as well online. But we do, like we said, we have a transition program, often called Pathways, for our students that are between 18 and 22 years old. And towards the usually within the second or third year, you can kind of start determining whether this would be the path that you would want to go. It is called Project Search, and it is an opportunity through Mayo. It's like a work study program. They go to the campus, there's a classroom, but they're also doing rotations and learning different aspects of working within a hospital. So I have gotten to tour the program. It's quite something. And these students are so proud to be, guiding patients and wheeling them around and helping in the cafeteria. And so we're very excited because it is exclusive to PV school district. So there are 12 spots that are open. Students do have to interview for a place at Mayo. But we will have more information Thursday, November 20th. It's from 5 to 6 and it is here. But of course, we'll also be online as well for those that are joining virtually. But it is definitely a great opportunity for our students. I mean, there's tons out there, but this is one that we love to highlight for PV. Perfect. All right, well, I appreciate you all for coming and just know that do not ever hesitate to reach out to any of us. We are here, we're a part of your team. And we look forward to supporting you as we move forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.